Hello! So there comes a point when you're writing code that your code is going to take more than one or two lines. So let's just write a bit of code in the R console like we did before. So let's just say we're going to create a vector of all the numbers from 1 to 10. Okay, let's hit enter. So that now stores a vector of all the numbers from 1 to 10. And then let's just change the third element of that vector. Let's just change that to, I don't know, 100, for example. Okay, press enter. Click V to see what that vector looks like now. Okay, so I've got 1, 2 instead of 3. I've got 100 because I've just changed that. Then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, hang on a minute. You know that first line where I put that I wanted to create a vector from all the integers from 1 to 10? I meant to put all the integers from 1 to 11. So in theory, what I should be able to do is just click up here and just change that to 11. 11. No. It won't let me change it. The reason being is because every time you click enter, you've asked R to do something. You now cannot go back and change your mind from what you asked R to do from up there. What you need to do now is basically run the whole thing again. So this time you now just write V is a vector not from 1 to 10, but from 1 to 11. Click enter, and then you need to change V3 to 100. And now you print V, and then you get the right thing back again. So you see how more cumbersome it is. So basically, if your code is taking more than 1 or 2 lines, you want a way of just saying, right, I just want to hold it for a minute. I just want to write my code out, then I want to run it all in one go. Well, the way which you can do that is with a script file. So if you look up here on the toolbar, you've got the RStudio logo up in the corner. Then you've got the file, the edit, the code, this toolbar along here. If you look at the toolbar below here, you've got a blank piece of paper with a green plus in the left-hand corner. If you click that, and then you click on the top option, which is R script. Okay, it says create a new R script. That's Control-Shift-N to be the shortcut. Click that. Then what this does, it opens up a new script up here. And what you can now do is you can write all your code in one go. So if I just write the same thing again, so V is the vector from 1 to 10. Okay, I want to change. Now notice when I hit enter, it no longer runs the code like it did down here in the R console. It now starts a new line. R hasn't actually done anything. It's just started a new line for me. And then I want to change the vector, the third element of vector V to 100. Okay, and now, okay, I've got this, and then I can now run this all in one go. But now, for example, if I change my mind and I said, right, I didn't want from 1, remember before when I said I didn't want it from 1 to 10, I want it from 1 to 11. All I have to do now is just click up here and change this to 11. So it's now much more edited because R actually hasn't done anything. And now what I can do is I can just click source up here in the top right-hand corner, okay? And then it should, if I now print V, it should now print the same thing for V, out. So basically, it's run it all the code which I've written in one go, okay? And it now means if I now change my mind again, so I want V to be all the vectors from not 1 to 11, but from 1 to 21, I can just change that, click source again, click V, okay, and then that now prints out the new V. So I can print it all, so basically I've got much more control over it. And I don't have to then keep on rewriting lines over and over again. So let's start with a new script file then. Whenever you write a new script file, whenever you start a new script file, I really encourage you to use this thing called a function. Now, what is a function? Well, let's first of all just write one, then I'll try and explain it. So first things first, I need to give my function a name. So I'm going to run something and I need to give that a name for the thing which I'm going to run. So why not just call it name? Let's be really cheeky and let's just call it name, okay? And I want to run a function, so I'm going to type function in. I'm going to tell R that I'm going to want to run a function, and I'm going to use my little brackets to tell R that that's what's going to go in my function. So all I've written there is my name is the name of the function. And I've told R I'm going to start a function. Okay, I'm going to leave the brackets empty at the moment. They need to be there. I'm going to leave them empty at the moment. I'm going to come back to them. Then what I do is I start a new line. I press enter. Okay, and now what I do is I press the curly bracket keys. So if I press the curly bracket keys, the reason why I need the curly bracket keys is the open curly bracket tells R to start that function. The close curly bracket keys tells R that I've finished that function. And then what I do is I just press enter. And then everything that I write now, you notice that R has automatically indented the lines. It just makes the code easier to read. Okay, so now anything that I write now will be done within that function. So let's say, for example, I'm going to create a vector. So I'm going to call this vector1. Okay, and I'm going to let that take the value of, I'm actually going to let that take the value of X followed by x plus 1. Now you may say, well, hang on a minute, you haven't said what x is at the moment. Now this is where I can use my function. So for example, up here in my function, where I've written function, I've got the two brackets, and you see I click in the middle of those two parentheses and I type x. Now what this does, if I source this now, press source up in the top right hand corner, and if I come down here, R hasn't actually done anything. But now what I do is if I type the name of my function, which is name, okay, then if I open my brackets, this gives me option for me to type in a value for x. So I've opened my brackets, name is my function, okay, it tells me the variables that I have control over that I need to define. So I need to define a value for x, okay, so I need to define x to be, let's say x is just 10, okay, press enter, that's now run the function. And actually I haven't got this to do anything, so let's say in my thing up here, I press enter a couple of times, let's just, for example, let's just print whatever vector1 is. So let's print whatever vector1 is within my function. Okay, so let's do that same thing again. Print just simply means show me what it's like. It's a bit like when I was doing in my R console, I wrote what V was, and I just press V, enter, and then it printed out what V is. That's exactly the same thing as what print is. So press source, do the same thing. The short way of doing it, rather than having to type out name and then my 10 again, is just click the up key a couple of times until I find that. Press enter. Okay, and then it's printed out what my vector my vector1 was, which was just simply saying, let's just go back to here, up to my script file, that within my function, so basically I give my function a name. I then tell R that the user has control of the value for x. Okay, that's what that function x means. Okay, so this function x simply means that the user has control over the value of x. The user has to specify what the value of x is if he wants to run this function. And then I've said that my vector is just the vector with that value of x, which the user has specified, and then the second element of that vector is that user value of x plus 1. Okay, and then I've just asked R to print that vector for me. So now if I go down here, I don't have to do anything else. I can just change the value which I put in. It's like my input value, my function input value. So let's say, for example, I change it to 2. So I should expect that my vector should look like 2 and then 2 plus 1, which is 3. So if I press enter, it comes out as 2 and 3. Okay, I can do it with different numbers again. So let's just do one more, 20, and it comes out with 20 and 21. And you see, I don't just have to specify one value, I can specify more than one value. So for example, let's say I have another vector, so vector2, and that's a vector with this time not x, but y, and that value of y plus 1. And then I go up to my function and I say, right, the user can specify the value of x and also the value of y, okay? I press source because I've changed it. I come down here, and this time when I press name, I don't just press, so let's say, for example, my value of x is going to be 10, and then my value of y is going to be 20. So that's all that means, which I've just typed in down there. I've got my function, which is called name, my value of x, which I've specified, it can be anything I like, I've just specified it to be 20, then my value for y, which I've just specified to be 20, so 10 and 20, and then it just comes out as that. Oops, sorry, I didn't ask it to print vector2, so if I just come back up here, and I go print vector2, okay, source that again, and then do the same thing again, and this time it prints out my relevant, I think it's just gone off the screen, but yeah, this time it prints out 20 and 21. Okay, so basically the whole idea of a script file, if I just move this up a bit, you might be able to see. Yeah, so now basically the idea of a script file is I don't have to rely on the R console each time. I can now go back, I can have much more control over coding, and I can edit it. And also the function, if I've got values within my function that I want to specify each time, then I put those values in those two parentheses there. Okay, and then I just use that value, even though it hasn't been specified in my script file, because by the time I come to run the function, it will be specified. Okay, so that's how to do it. And you'll get used to functions. Every time you use a script file, I really encourage you, just use a function. Really, really useful.